Are we live? Hi, Joel, I can't hear you. What did I do here?
Yeah, maybe whatever Lacey had spread to me.
There you go.
You're good. You're all live. Sorry about that.
We're ready to go.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the June 17th, 2020 Creswell School District School Board meeting. And we have a quorum. Could you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Well, thank you all for coming and being a part of this. Do we need to approve the agenda? Do we have a motion there? Okay, we got a motion for Mark. Do we have a second? Okay, Debbie. Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor, please signify, raise your hand or holler aye. Got it. Okay, thank you. And the consent agenda, can we get a motion on that? Okay,
I
Mark
move to
again
approve the-
and Ashley second. Okay. All righty, new business action, approved resolution 1920-01. And just so everybody's up to speed, we got our budget passed, and then the next day we found out about the $2 million seismic grant. So if I understand this right, this is to put this in with the budget and get everybody the authority to use it once we get the funds. Is that right, Lacey? Okay, do we need to do that in 3 parts? I think we probably do.
I would love Marilyn to weigh in. I know in the past, well, no, the budget committee read out all the parts. So I think as a school board, we can just pass it as a whole resolution. Marilyn, do you agree with that?
Yes, that's what's happened in the past.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so that'll be good. One resolution will do the whole thing. Okay. Do we have a
I
motion
move-
on that?
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
move to
Lacey
approve
made,
the
anybody
budget
want to
resolution.
second that? Do we have a second? Okay, Deb seconded, so we have a motion and a second on the resolution. Are there any questions before we vote or any comments? Okay, if not, everybody in favor, raise your hand, please. We got her. Thank you very, very much. Okay, action, ratify approved collecting bargaining agreement with the Oregon School Employees Association Charter number 49, which is a classified. Mike, you want to give a bird's eye view of that, please?
I'll do that, but wait.
Oh, we need a motion though first, don't we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
okay.
feel more comfortable if we had a motion on the table before we discussed it.
Okay, could somebody make a motion for me, please, or for us? Okay, Mark, so moved, and Ashley seconded. Okay, now Mike, you can start.
Okay, so what you see is the agreement that we have proposed. It's been ratified by the OSEA Association, so they've approved it. There are a few changes in it. If you click on to the MOA that's there in your board book, you'll see that we're talking about the fair share agreement. And by law, those were no longer available to any of the associations 2 years ago. So this MOA was signed by the district and also by the OSEA field rep to excuse that language that was in the contract at the time, with the understanding that the next contract that succeeds it would not have this language in it. So in the proposed contract that's been adopted, that's been removed from the contract. And then the additional changes, we looked at a 2-year agreement with a 1.5% COLA in compensation for each year,
Mhm.
and step movements in each year recognized, and a contribution of $50 per month on the base contributions for insurance, and then on the prorated insurance, $15 a month. And those, the 1.5% COLA and the insurance contributions are in alignment with the agreement that was reached with the Certified Association last year. For the term of this agreement, this would go 2 years. The certified agreement will go for 2 more years. So they are aligned and will reach their expiration date at the same time.
Any questions for Mike or comments?
I'll just comment that the changes here are consistent with the changes that the Labor Management Committee has made with the unions in the past. So I agree and appreciate all of these changes.
Okay, well, if there's no questions or comments, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And we pass. Thank you very much. Okay, next action item. Approve the agreement between the confidential supervisor employees and the board. Do we have a motion on that one?
I move to approve that agreement.
Okay, moved. Do we have a second? Deb? Okay, moved and seconded. Mike, you want to give us a view on that one, please?
Yeah, similar to the OSEA agreement and the certified agreement, we were looking at a 2-year agreement, term agreement here with our confidential and supervisor employees. And with the compensation, we wanted to be in alignment with all groups equally at 1.5% COLA for next year and the following year, as well as the $50 monthly contributions to the insurance base. And that puts all of the groups in the same term range of 2 years, but also the compensation and insurance contributions and increases were equal to the other groups.
Okay. Any questions? Comments?
My comment would be the same in that we really do try to keep the groups as consistent as possible. And so that's why, you know, with both of them, they're all getting the same COLA of 1.5% and health insurance and other benefits. So the consistency between all of them, I very much appreciate.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If none, then all those in favor, please raise your hand. Good, we passed that. All righty. Thank you very much. Okay, next item, discuss Mike's contract. Lacey, you want to say a few things about that, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to. If you guys would pull open the attachment under that item it's a 1-page, essentially a market review for our district with the current contract that we established with Mike a year ago. And you'll see that there's 3 shaded bars there in the middle, and then the current contract that we have with Mike is the 4th shaded kind of horizontal line going across. And we're near the bottom of the market. We knew that last year when we negotiated this contract with Mike. As a brand new superintendent, though, I felt like that was fair. He didn't have any administration or at least superintendency experience. So given his performance and the amount of effort that he put into our strategic plan and getting us an updated strategic plan, reaching out with our minority groups in the district, that was above and beyond. And we had talked about a lot of that stuff during the evaluation. And so what I'm proposing for you guys, and so the process, I'll take just a quick tangent on the process. This is a discussion item tonight. I didn't want to make any proposal and then immediately move into action in case anyone felt they had questions or wanted to talk about other things. I don't want to move so fast with this because he is our one employee. So I want to make sure folks have time to ask questions if they do. So we will vote on this when we come back into session in August, and then the changes will be retroactive. And Mike is comfortable with the retroactive piece on this. So that will be the process. This is just questions, and then you can again ask questions over the next month or so as well. So what I am proposing, looking at this, knowing we are at the bottom of the market, we've had his evaluation, we're super happy with his performance. The amount of time that he's put in is above and beyond what we normally see from a superintendent, especially also given the pandemic and everything that they've responded to as well. So normally what we see, whether it's teachers, administrators, each year when a person increases or kind of moves through their, I don't know what we call it. We call it an experience ladder in my job. So I don't know if that correlates. But for a number of years, as a person gets more experience, you will have a 2.5% increase. And so I believe that's what all of our groups see when they move through for a number of years. It's not indefinite. So teachers and classifieds and administrators, they may have a 5 years where each year they would get a 2.5% increase because they're gaining more experience, and we want to pay them for their experience. Mike would be the same. I'm proposing, though, given this market review and how close we are to the bottom of it, that we move Mike on a 2-step up to next year. It gets him still below the average of similar sized districts, but it doesn't put us at the bottom. I think both his performance and the fact that we want to keep Mike, and there's a lot that he's put into our district. So I feel like a 2-step experience. So that would be a 5% increase above the 130,000 base pay. So that's the first proposal. And then the second part in his contract, it has a no cause termination with a 1-year severance, a 1-year payout. And also looking at where we are with markets and with the unpredictability that we tend to just face over the next year or so, frankly, in the future, in terms of politics, and if people get unhappy, if the board gets split over issues. He had requested us to consider a 2-year severance, and we talked quite at length about that and the risk that he has with a no cause. There's not a lot of boards that have no cause termination. It's in our favor to have a no cause, but it doesn't need to be wielded without some thought. And so a 2-year severance, so 24 months payout, would ensure that if we choose to activate a no cause termination, we're doing it with quite a bit of thought. And so I thought that was a fair ask. So that there's other small changes in his contract, date increases. We're also going to increase the amount of vacation that he can roll over because of the pandemic and the fact that he has not been able to take vacation. If we don't act on that, he'll lose some of those days. And I think that's an unfair situation. So that would be increased as well. So, and then date changes, minor things like that in the contract. So the significant pieces though, that I wanted to make sure to call out, because it's unusual, would be a 2-step increase. So instead of a 2.5% increase, a 5% increase, to help kind of align with market. And then secondly, we would love to hear feedback and questions and discussion around the no cause termination, still keeping it in there because I think it's an important tool for a board to have. However, increasing from 12 months to 24 months to kind of help insulate the risk a little bit. So with that, I'll stop talking and you guys can think through questions or.
Anybody have any questions or
I do.
Candace? Yeah, go ahead.
When you say some changes to dates, what kind of dates are we talking about?
So we have a 3-year rolling contract with Mike, meaning it's a 3-year contract. So if we don't do anything, the contract that we had last year stays, but we also have an option to make changes, for instance, address the step increase. So the dates would start a 3-year all over again. So instead of it starting in 2019, which we would have signed last year, now it'll be effective 2020 to 2023. Did I throw an extra 20 in there?
I understand what you mean though. That makes
Okay. It's really just updating that 3-year rolling period. So it's signed in 2020.
Okay, got it. What's the current vacation limit for rollover, and what's the proposed increase?
Sure. I believe it is 15 days.
Mhm.
And he requested a 25-day max. So increasing it 10 days. Because he's literally taken no vacation this year.
Yeah, understandable, totally.
Yeah, the incentive would be to actually make people take a vacation so they don't get burnt out. And we've had that conversation. Mike can shake his head yes, that he's heard
right.
us, that like, yeah, the intent is to take it. But given the extreme situation that he was facing this year and the amount of hours that he put in, I thought that was a fair trade-off.
Mhm. Okay, I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions that? If you have none, give this some thought and then maybe take some notes, and then at the next meeting we have, you can feel free to bring them up or ask questions. I think Mike has done us a really good job, and I think with what we've come up with, or what Lacey's come up with, is fair for him and fair for us too. At first, that no cause termination, I like that for a couple reasons. One, it protects him, but also with what I've seen in city politics when I was on city council and then different board members around the state, I think as boards change and people change, sometimes they come in with agendas already, and I think it's going to make us think before we make a move to do something like that. And I think with that, key is communication. We don't have any problems, we have issues, and the whole thing is, if you got an issue, let's talk about it, either with us or with Mike, or sit down in his office and have a coffee and talk it over, and we'll get things resolved. They only become problems when you don't talk about it, but I think it's really fair, and I think it's good both ways.
Can I ask a couple
Yeah.
more questions? Sorry.
Sure.
Please,
On the contract, sorry, I'm an HR person at heart, so.
please, yes.
On the contract analysis piece, what is, unfortunately, I'm not a public employee, so what is TSA?
It's a retirement annuity.
Okay,
So in other districts, they're paying a portion of the compensation into an annuity for the individual in lieu of compensation.
got it, okay.
And we don't offer that benefit.
Okay. Okay, perfect. That was my question.
I have,
Okay. Yeah, good.
this is my first my first board year, so I'm still learning. So we would be looking at the 1.5% increase and the 5% increase, or 5% total.
So the 5% increase would be what is termed his experience increase.
Right. And then the
So
1.5
normally
is the cost of
teachers
living.
is COLA. Yes, correct.
Okay.
And just for clarity's sake, on that contract analysis, there's an error for the contract that Mike has. He does receive a tech stipend of $100 a month. So where there's a 0, it should say $1,200 for a year. And we're not proposing to change that. So it would only affect, if you look at the total compensation of 133, that would take it up to 134,200. So that was, I think that was just left off in error. And so I believe those are the other significant changes. I'm glancing through my notes to make sure I'm not leaving something off. Oh, there's 2 other just minor changes that you'll see in the contract, and we'll make sure in the August board book that you'll see the draft contract that we'll be signing, and just the organization and activities portion. We came in really low because we didn't know what Mike was going to join in terms of associations and networks. And so currently we will reimburse him for $500 worth of dues to these organizations, and we'll increase that to 1,000 because what we've seen over this last year is he's really taking advantage of the different associations. He's using their programs, their trainings, and that really should be paid by the district on his behalf. And so we'll be increasing that. And that's just the amount of dues and memberships that we'll pay. What was that?
Increasing it to what?
Did somebody say? Oh, 1,000. $500 is what we started with, unknowing what he would need or how much he'd utilize it. And you'll see in his activity reports, you'll see a lot of work that he's doing with COSA, with their new superintendent training program, OSBA, other services to really help fill out the gap and make sure what he's doing. And we want that. We want those associations to be available to him. And so that's an increase. And as I'm glancing through my notes, the one other is the travel allowance. We're below average, and we propose to increase that up an additional $100 a month because he does do a lot of driving to Salem. And we don't provide him a school district car. He does that in his own car. So the contract would go from $250 to $350. And that'll still keep him, I mean, it's still below the average. But at this point, with more Zoom meetings and things, then that should work out.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Ashley?
Ashley.
Does the district not reimburse for mileage when you use your personal vehicle?
No, we do it through this travel allowance with the
Okay.
contract. We may do that with other teachers and things based upon union contracts, but Mike doesn't, we do a specific single contract with him.
Okay.
And so we don't do mileage, we do simply, this is how much we're gonna pay. And if you travel more, if your gas is more, then he just eats that.
Okay.
Okay, I don't see any other notes in my thing. So that should cover all of the changes that you'll see coming in August. And as you look at that, mark it and have any other questions about that, then for sure let me know. I'm happy to talk through any of that with you.
Any other questions or comments?
So just clarification on, I think it was Ashley's question. So proposing 5% on the experience and then a 1.5%. Was that correct?
Yeah, the 1.5% is what all the other groups are getting for a cost of living adjustment.
And the it currently can roll over 10 days. Is that correct? And we want to increase that to 25.
15
No,
days.
he's currently getting 15
Oh, okay.
and it'll roll over to 25. So the increase is 10 days.
And will that be for the duration of this contract?
Yeah, it's a rolling 3-year contract. So if there's no other changes made, that will be the case. Historically, we typically look at the contract to see what is needed based upon either performance or changes or things like that.
Okay.
Sorry, I have one last question.
Good.
Is vacation days, sorry, are vacation days paid out at the end? Like if he was to resign his position, which I hope you don't, I'm just asking the question, are those,
Mhm.
do those sit as a liability? Are they payable or they just end?
No, I think-
No, there's a limit on what we would pay out,
Okay.
and the limit would be 30 days. So we would pay out up to 30 days of his vacation if he was to resign. It would not be the full amount of what he could potentially have.
And that's the same as it is now. That's not changed. That didn't change, right?
No, that is changing. In the current contract, it would be 20. And
Okay.
because we changed the vacation up 10, then we upped the upper limit to 10.
Got it. Okay.
Up
Thank
by
you.
10 to 30. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. Mike, we're talking about you a lot. Is there anything that you would like to clarify, or are we doing okay?
No, you're,
This has to be an extremely uncomfortable conversation for you, so thanks for sitting there.
I just really appreciate your consideration and recognizing where we're at the bottom end of this comparison with the other districts. And, my commitment's going to be the same regardless, but I just really, I feel appreciated. And I just want you to know that.
Thanks, Mike.
Righty, any other questions or anything?
So
Now-
I
Go
have
ahead, Mark.
one
I'm
more.
sorry.
Yeah, so my only concern, Superintendent Johnson, is
Yeah.
that we're going to allow you to roll these vacation days over, but we still want you to take vacation because we do not want you to burn out. We need you. And I've said it before and I'll voice it again. Okay, I'll shut up now.
No,
No, you're fine. Thank you for saying that.
That's-
I hear it a lot from Lacey. I hear it from Mike too. I really get it, and I intended to schedule days out. Actually, we all did as an admin team, but when we were shut down on the 13th, we couldn't go anywhere. We were in on the weekends and throughout the week. And I really appreciate the team that I'm working with. Give that up to make this happen, to come back and be able to roll the distance learning out. But there just wasn't really, and right now, coming into June 30th is coming rather quickly, and we're up and getting ready for reopening next year already. And we just I don't have the space to be able to really do that. So I appreciate your understanding of the situation, but I will get those days in, Mark. I promise you, I will start scheduling, or Mike's going to come and take me out of here.
Mhm. You do have a wife and a dog at home that we don't want them to forget who you are. So
Who?
there's I said your wife and your dog. Yeah, there's a well-being
Don't be
factor
saying
in
who.
there.
I have
quit a
one more
job
question.
one-
I'm sorry.
had a job. I was traveling a lot and called home one time and said, "Hi, this is Mike." And my wife said, "Who?" And that was the end of that job. You don't want to, you got to take a few days. Okay, if there's no
Ashley?
other questions.
Yep.
I have one.
Mike, Ashley
Yeah,
had
go
one.
ahead.
Okay, so I know my husband's always in the same boat of not taking his vacation and losing it. And so his company allows them to cash out up to 80 hours of vacation a year. Is that something the district would be willing to do for Mike if we, as an option, if we wanted to go ahead and just cash out as a bonus?
I think we have to look into that. There are IRS implications and there are
Right.
rules about how you can cash out. So we'd have to look into what that falls into.
His current contract allows that, and it limits it, and we're not changing that limit.
Okay.
So that's staying the same.
Okay. Thank you.
He doesn't have any ability to spend that money anyway because he can't go anywhere. That's the joke we've had. Even if he cashed it out, he can't go to Hawaii with it.
Well, I mean, there's handbags for his wife because he's not home.
When we move off of this item, Mike, I know you got that hammer ready to go, but we do have item number 2 to go back to under consent agenda. Or, no, that was passed, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
The
okay.
consent
everything's
agenda was
passed.
done.
I do have one more thing. When everybody's done with their comments, I do have one more thing that I'd like to add, and then I'll get the hammer out. But Mike and I were talking today, and I think the middle week of July, Mike's going to have the admin team come together and work on how the program on how they're going to start the school with the ODE recommendations. And what we're going to try to do is like July 14th or 15th, have like a barbecue at my house for the admin team and then the school board and Anna and Joel, and we'll get everybody involved in it. But we'd like to have you all come by the house for a barbecue, maybe one of those afternoons. And I'll get an email out to everybody when we get a little better plan. But I think it'd be good to get to meet the new people and get a chance to talk a little bit, and hopefully it'd be sunshiny. But I'll send everybody an email when we get closer to it. We have a little better plan made. But I thought that'd be a good way to we've done that before a few times and it's worked out really well, I think, especially for the new people on board. But any other comments or questions or anything? If not, then that's it. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
summer, everybody. Have
You
a
guys
good
have a
summer.
good summer, everybody. Be safe, huh?